All right, graphing exponentials with transformations. So we have a parent or basic exponential, which is just the base to the exponent x, and then the changes, like multiplying by a number in front, multiplying in the exponent, adding or subtracting in the exponent, adding or subtracting at the end. What does each one mean? So let's just take each one apart. So if a, and it's the absolute value of that, if that's bigger than 1, then that's what's called a vertical stretch. If that a, and it's the absolute value of a, is less than 1, a fraction, then it's a vertical compression. And if a is negative, let's see if I can spell a, If a is negative, it reflects over the x-axis. That's all A. So A could be a stretch, a compression, or a reflection. Again, press pause if you need to. The B, if B is, and again it's the absolute value B, is less than 1, it creates a compression, a horizontal compression. If that absolute value is greater than 1, it creates a horizontal stretch. It's the opposite of what you think in the exponent. And believe it or not, if b is negative, it reflects over the y-axis. All right, so that's already quite a bit there, right? So the number that's being multiplied, a bunch of things could happen, right? So it could be a horizontal compression, a stretch, and if b is negative, it reflects over the y-axis rather than the x. Now the h and k are a lot simpler. H is just the horizontal shift, and it does go in the opposite direction. And k is the vertical shift, and it does what it says. So positive means it goes up, and negative means it goes down. And again, if you need to, you can press pause to get caught up to understand what each change means. A, B, H, and K, and what it does. And then we're going to do an example. We're going to graph it. Okay? So I want to graph this and understand the domain, range, and end behavior. So we start with the basic exponential. That's just 3 to the exponent x. And then we understand 2 points on that basic, which is 0, 1, and 1 and 3. And the asymptote, which is at y equals 0. Then we're going to change it. Now to change it, we need to know what a equals. In this case, b is going to be 1/2, and we're going to see what we're going to do with that in a second, and k is 1. So to the x coordinate, we're going to do the reciprocal to that. So in other words, we're actually going to multiply times 2 to every x coordinate. So 0 times 2, is 0, and 1 times 2, which is 2. So we're going to take the x and multiply it times 2. To the y coordinate, we're going to multiply and then add. So we're going to go 1 times -2 and then add 1. And then we're going to go 3 times -2 and then add 1. And then to the y coordinate, when you multiply, it stays 0. So just adding 1, whatever the k value is, will be your asymptote. So this asymptote is at 1. Then I'm going to plot the 2 points, which are at 0, -1, and at 2 and -5. And then I'm going to curve this. So this is going to curve down to the right and then follow the asymptote to the left. The domain is always all real numbers, and the range comes from the asymptote. Now for this one, the bottom of the range is -infinity, and it goes up to the asymptote is 1. And then the end behavior. As x approaches infinity, the function is going to approach, so the right end is going to -infinity. And then the left end, as x approaches -infinity, where's the left end going? To the asymptote, which is at 1. And there you go. So you have the ability to understand the basic exponential, understand what's changing it, change the points in the asymptote, put it on your graph, and be able to analyze it. We're going to do one more together. Here, I'll do it on graph paper right here. So y equals so write this down and we're going to graph it. So step one, so press pause. Step one is to write down the basic exponential with no changes. That's just 1/2 to the x. And so 2 points there are 0, 1, and -1, and do the reciprocal, and that makes it 2. And then the asymptote, which is y equals 0. So remember, the -1 flips this to make it easier to change. Here I recognize a is equal to 3, and k is equal to -4. This is what changes the y coordinate. I also recognize h is -3, and that's what changes the x coordinate. So if I want to change this, I'm taking the x coordinate and I'm subtracting 3. And again, I'm going to take the x coordinate and I'm going to subtract 3. To the y coordinate, I'm going to multiply and subtract. So 1 times 3 and then subtract 4. And again, 2 times 3, again subtract 4. And then to the asymptote, it's just what k equals, because when you multiply times 0, it's just the k value, it's -4. So we're going to graph this here. I like to start with the asymptote. So at -4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there we are at -4. I'm going to plot the 2 points, which are at -3, -1, and -4 and 2. So I plot the 2 points, double checking, make sure I do it right. So you can tell this is going to curve up to the left and it's going to curve down to the right. So one side's going to follow the asymptote, one side's going up. How would I analyze this? So the domain is always all real numbers. The range from the bottom to the top. So the bottom is the asymptote, which is -4 to infinity. And then the end behavior. So as x approaches infinity, the right end goes to the asymptote, which is at -4. As x approaches negative infinity, that's the left end behavior. That's going to infinity. All right. If you need more practice, you're going to have to go back to the lesson, back to the homework, and start practicing that and so on. But I hope that review helped, and good luck on the quiz and all that. Mr. G Math, over now.